Hey, everybody. Welcome to the BBLTV Money Show. It is Wednesday. It's about 12 o'clock. And so that's the time we get started with our conversation with Mr. Ron Garnett of Garnett and Associates. Of course, you know him from cashtofund.net. And we're going to be talking about businesses and money and financing. And if you have any questions, now's the time to go ahead and ask the question. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook or BBLTV.net, please feel free to put in your questions for Mr. Ron if you have any questions about business funding, or if you actually want to join us on screen, you can do that as well. If you're a BBL member, you got an email this morning, and that is where you would find the link to actually join the program. So we're going to go into the intro, and we'll be right back with Mr. Ron Garnett of Garnett and Associates. Mr. Ron, what's going on? How are you today?
I'm doing fine. How you doing, Steven?
Man, I'm doing well. It's a little warm, but other than that,
Yeah,
doing okay.
Yeah, it's really hot, really.
Yeah, hot. Yeah,
hot.
I should have said that.
Not warm, just hot.
Another day in Georgia.
Yes.
All right, so that leads us to the first thing I want to do too. If anybody's watching us live, go ahead and let us know where you're watching from. I'm always interested to know where our viewers are. So either you come in live or even on the replay, just go ahead and put in the comments where you're from. I'd really be interested to see some of your comments. It's usually pretty fun to see where people are tuning in from. So, and you're in Georgia, right?
Yes, I am.
All right, good deal. Two Georgia boys here.
Yes.
And so I see we do have another viewer. So viewer, if you're out there and you're watching, just go ahead and let us know where you're tuning in from. That was the question. I'm going to go ahead and put that question up on the screen. So today, guys, we're going to be talking about money and access to money for Black business owners, and why it's such a challenge usually for us to get funding. And, Mr. Ron, we've been doing these shows now for several weeks, and he really hit me to the game in terms of why we don't get funded when we think we should get funded. Oftentimes, we don't even really know what type of business we have. We think we have a small business, but in actuality, we have something that's called a micro enterprise. And I was very interested in that concept. And I'd really like for you to hit that again today to kind of tell people what's the difference between a small business as defined by financial institutions, and what's called a micro enterprise.
Okay. Well, generally, a small business, and you use like the SBA terms, or a bank, is a business of around 100, employees, income of maybe $1 million or so, or high six figures. Is normally a small business, depending on the industry, but that's the general term across the board. So when a bank is advertising these small business loans, that's who they're targeting. A business like maybe $2 million of annual gross income, 100 employees. A micro enterprise is a business that generally is one person, a partnership, 3 or 4 people who get together to start a business. That's called a micro enterprise. Okay. And a micro enterprise has different sources of funding than a small business, because generally when you go into a bank, and I have had people who actually go into banks and say they want to start a business, and the bank will look at them. They want 2 things. Well, several things. One, first of all, they want some collateral. So if you want to borrow $100,000, you need $100,000 of something. Number 2, they want a good credit score. what they consider good credit score, like 700. If they really bending the rules, they might go 680, but as long as 700 or above. You got to have a clean credit history. That means you don't have any delinquencies or anything on there that's going to be derogatory. And you need to really be pristine if they want. And also they're going to want 2 consecutive years of gross income, at least $200,000 a year. That's minimum.
Minimum.
So if you walk in and say, well, I want to start a business, they're going to ask you for your credit score, the collateral. But if you're just starting a business, how do you get $200,000 of gross income for 2 years when you don't have a business? So when you walk in and apply for this loan, you are immediately disqualified. So if you're a micro enterprise and starting up, or you've been around for like 2 years and you haven't made $200,000 a year for 2 consecutive years, if you go into a bank and they take your application, it's been my experience is that they're going to tell you no, maybe 9.9 times out of 10, but they're also going to run your credit. And so if you go to 3 or 4 different banks, you get told no 3 or 4 different times. You get 3 or 4 inquiries on your credit, which basically, 1, kills your credit score. And number 2, if you have like 3 or 4 inquiries, you disqualify for funding within a 12-month period. So
12-month period.
Yeah. So you are really shooting yourself in the foot by going into, if you think you know somebody in a bank and get a relationship with them, you go in and talk to them. If they tell you no, chances are everybody's going to tell you no. And there have been situations that I have heard of where a bank would tell you no, run your credit. Then they said, oh, we got a new program, bring you back in. You reapply, get told no again. So you got 2 inquiries, 2 credit, pulls. So your credit has gone down maybe 20, 30, 40 points by running around from bank to bank. But that's because there's a difference between a small business and a micro enterprise. And one thing that bankers will say is that if a client or a customer is asking for a $200,000 loan and a $2 million loan, they make much more money on a $2 million loan than a $200,000 loan. But it takes just as much effort and work to process a $2 million loan as a $200,000 loan. So the preference is to do the $2 million loan because you make the greater profits into it.
It's just, that's business, right? Yeah. So I think that what you said is very important because I'm not sure how many people actually understand that. They think that when you say, well, I do have a small business, I have a business license, I've registered with the state, I've done everything necessary to actually establish myself as a business. What we're talking about is how the financial institutions look at you. So you might have a legally established business, but you're not the type of customer that they're really looking for. You're not their ideal loan applicant. So you might want to understand that what you are is a micro enterprise, and that there are many ways for you to get funding if you're a micro enterprise. So tell us a little bit about what are your options once you realize, okay, I don't have the revenue that they're looking for, and I may not have the credit score that they're looking for. What are some of my other options?
Well, in fairness, the SBA does have what they call a micro loan program. and that is a program for micro enterprises to get funded. And those programs are not run through the SBA directly. They are run through certain nonprofits located throughout the country.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to go to the SBA microloan program, you would have to locate the funding source in your area and apply for a microloan through them.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you have community development financial institutions who also would do microloans. These are institutions that are designated by the government, and they get money from the government, and they will also do microloans in certain areas, in depressed areas. Now, these have geographical limits to them, and they always depend on government money and funding. Now, the nonprofits can get donations, and I guess the community development financial institutions can get donations too, and they do get donations from different sources, and that's one source you can go. But what you must understand is that anytime you have a situation where you're getting the SBA program or a community development financial institution, there is a greater demand for that money than the resources allow. So they have greater scrutiny. Now, you might qualify for something, but whether you get it or not is a different, story. So that if they have money for 10 businesses and they have 100 applicants, that means 90, people just don't get it, even though they may have good credentials when they apply. There just is not enough money going around, and the Treasury Department will fund so much money for these community development financial institutions. Then you got to go to apply for them and work with them, and also monies are also given to these nonprofits, and they have certain loan criteria and certain loan programs that you can apply. Now, these are basically federal programs that will be available to micro enterprise, entrepreneurs. Now, I will tell you that as a business consultant, I have helped clients get funded through these. I've helped them write the business plans, do the applications, and walk them through the process. But it's a much more detailed and laborious process than most people can stick with, because they have a lot of scrutiny. They normally require some kind of collateral and so forth and so on. Now, which is why I started looking around for other programs for micro enterprises that I was representing, which is why I started working with people who will do unsecured signature loans that don't have government money tied to them. So they don't have government regulations, and it's a much more streamlined process. So that is, these are alternatives. So I'm not saying we're the only game in town. I think we're the best game in town. We're not the only game in town, because I have played games. I have worked with these people with the with the micro enterprises from the SBA micro enterprise program.
Mm-hmm.
That is a source, but it's limited. I mean, I have gone to seminars where people will outline programs for micro enterprises, and I asked. This happened last year. I went to a banker. There's a bank that does microloans. They have a special program, but they have a fund that they told me that they use to fund these programs. But the money is kind of a rotating kind of a program, which means that the money is lent out, is paid back, it's lent out and paid back. And I asked the person, I said, well, how many people can you fund in a year? He said, maybe 8 to 10. I said, well, okay, well, that's good if you want 8 to 10 people, but what about the other 100 people who might need funding out there? There's just not enough money to go around. So I'm not saying don't look at these programs, but look at all your programs. I mean, it's been my philosophy that if I read something, I write business plans occasionally, not a lot anymore because other things I don't have the time to do it like I used to. But if I write a business plan, if I'm looking at an industry and get immersed in the industry and learn the industry, I don't read one publication or one article. I might read 30, 40, or 50 articles so I get a complete understanding of the subject matter. If you're going to try and get money, look at the sources, and find which one's the best for you, and make the choice. I mean, I don't have any problem with people comparing the signature loan program that we have with any other program.
Yes.
I mean, the interest rates might be a little bit higher, not appreciably higher, but a little bit higher. But there's a question of whether you're going to get the money or not get the money. There's a question of whether you got to put up collateral or not put up collateral.
Well, you bring up a good point. And we can get caught up in a lot of things in terms of the interest rate is important. Don't get me wrong. But if you're getting ready to fail, if you're in business and you need capital,
yes,
which is the lifeblood of your business.
Correct.
You need to get the money so that you can stay alive. Right. Sometimes, I thought about this and I saw this article and I told you about it earlier with Inc. magazine put out an article that the lack of capital is the number one reason why businesses fail, the lack of access to capital. And if you think about it, somebody might say, well, maybe it was that person's business acumen that caused them to maybe that was the reason why the business went under. But here's the thing: if you're a CEO or if you're the owner of a company, and you do need to level up with your business acumen, you can always hire a consultant, and a consultant can give you some advice in terms of what to do. But if you don't have any money, you can't hire a consultant.
No.
So it's always really, it's sometimes really just truly about that access to capital. So this is why I'm glad that we have this partnership so that people can know that they have a solution, that you don't have to think about the traditional bank for your business, especially because chances are you're not their ideal customer, but you're the exact type of person that Mr. Ron is looking for to talk to so that he can give you some money. Am I right or wrong?
You're right. And listen, as African Americans, we've always been taught to go to a bank for money. And if the bank tells you no, that's the end of it, because that's no place you know to go. And that is not the case generally for people who are outside of our community. They look for other places to go. Like you mentioned before, you might have a rich relative. You might know somebody at a bank who can walk you into the president's office and put your arm around you and co-sign a loan for you or something like that. Most of the time, we don't have that type of access. I know some bankers, but there's nobody I can walk into a bank and say, give this person some money. And they go give us some money because it's not structured that way. What I'm saying is that we have a loan program that will work with you and give you enough money where you can have a fair shot. What I'm saying is that I mentioned before, people have gone to banks. I was African American people have gone to banks where you have a mortgage with them. You got your car with them. You got a savings account with them. You got a checking account. You got a credit card. You've been the perfect customer. You want to start you have a business. You got a business account with them and you need some money to grow your business. And you need $150,000 to fulfill a contract. And they get off you 20. If you take that $20,000, but you have a $150,000 contract that you need money for to fulfill the contract, you're already destined to fail. You would do better turning down the contract and the money rather than having a failed contract on your record. That's just normal. That's just common sense. If you have all that and an income, we can probably get you $150,000, maybe $200,000. So you have a little bit of wiggle room. I used to teach a class. I think I told you I started my business because I had a class where people were supposed to get money once they wrote their business plans. And the city assigned the task of writing business plans to a nonprofit. I was the instructor. So I was working with students who were supposed to be getting money for their businesses. Not enough, but enough to get them started. And the whole plan fell through. And so that's when I started looking for private lending sources, because I sent another class to the bank and they all came back and said, we don't qualify for anything. So I said, so what is there out there? But one time I told all my students, I said, there's a rule, I call it Gunner's rule of thumb. That's my thumb right here. Gunner's rule of thumb if you're in business. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know how it's going to be, but something's going to happen in your business that's going to cost you some money that you don't expect to spend.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen, but you're going to need some extra money because something's going to happen if you're in business for yourself.
Well, yeah. And so here's the thing is that money gives you options.
Options, right.
So if you we talked about this on previous shows where even if it's a customer service issue, if it's a refund that you need to give someone,
right.
If you're living not paycheck to paycheck, but if you live in project to project or invoice to invoice, it's going to be very hard for you to just extend the refund. Maybe that's the quickest way for you to deal with a customer service issue, but you have to have that cash flow. You have to have that access to capital.
Right.
So
that's true. I have known situations where Black businessmen were so close to the line that they couldn't give a refund. And they actually had to go into their own pocket and take their money, their food money, whatever, to keep it open to give a refund to somebody who was dissatisfied, who wasn't listening to them. Even though you might say you didn't do anything wrong, if you got an irate customer who, I have heard this before, actually got their cell phone, call the police, try to take a warrant out for you for stealing their money. I mean, that's not good customer service.
Right.
So, and sometimes you rather give somebody some money back and say, here's your money. I'm sorry I couldn't help you. But if you don't have any money, you spent that money. And a lot of people you mentioned live off from one project to another, where project A pays for project B and project B pays for project C. And if you have a situation where you got a new project and people holding up your money on project B, you don't have the money with project C and you're out of business. So you got to take what they give you. And people know that. There are horror stories out there where people who are, say, construction have had situations where they did the work, they turn the invoices in on a Thursday to make payroll on Friday, and on Thursday afternoon, the owner says, "Well, you didn't do it right, so I'm not paying you." You don't have time to go to small claims court to pay your people on Friday. I mean, and they say, "Well, you didn't do the work, but I'll give you half the money because I know you out there." You got to take it, try and make payroll, but you are out of business. You are hurt. And people, when you play those games, if you don't have money, you don't have options.
Yep.
You don't have options.
Well, we're coming up on 12:30. It's 12:28 now, and it's always, I'm always inspired when I talk to you, and every week I get more and more sold on this mission that we need to get this message to as many people as we can. And it's, even if you don't take the loan, go through the process, develop a relationship with Mr. Ron, because he will be an option for you. And like I said, the more options you have, the better chance you have of actually getting success. Don't limit your options. Mr. Ron has money available. There are folks out there, he can give you, I think, upwards to $400,000, depending on your situation. Correct. So there's private lending money available. So go through the process, at least so you'll know where you stand. Does not affect your credit score to go through this process. It is just a great way for you to give yourself some ammunition as you fight to stay alive out here in these business streets, because it's hard out here in these business streets, and you need as much ammunition as possible to make it. So, Mr. Ron, I'm going to give you the last word as we wrap. Well, first, I'm going to play your commercial.
Okay.
with your permission, I want to play your commercial, just so people can get a sense of what we're talking about. Some people need that visual. So let's go ahead and run the commercial. Then we're going to give you the last word. Okay.
Okay.
All right, Reed.
Cash to Fund can help you get the cash you need. We provide up to $400,000 in unsecured funding for business or personal use. We have relationships with over 250 lenders nationwide. Through the use of our proprietary software, we are able to secure over 80% more funding for our clients. We help clients obtain funding for real estate investment, business startups, down payment assistance, working capital, medical, legal, education, funeral expenses, and more. We also provide 100% financing on fix and flips if you can qualify. We do not offer credit cards or lines of credit, which can later be revoked. Our loans are funded solely in cash to our borrowers in 5 to 7 days. There are no prepayment penalties and no collateral requirement. Leverage our expertise to obtain fast approvals. No upfront costs and affordable payments with cash going straight to your checking. So what are you waiting for? Let Cash to Fund make that next deposit to help with your funding needs. Visit us online at cashtofund.net or call 706-513-4703 to start your funding today.
Okay, thank you. Well, what I want to say is that we don't have any application fees. We don't, do hard pulls on your credit. And the option is always with you. I mean, on other shows, you have said that a lot of African American business owners feel that it's not even worth applying. It is worth applying now. Now, one thing I will say, you got to take it seriously. As I was telling you before, a lot of people will start the process, get approved for possible funding, but won't send the financial documents so they get the money.
Mhm.
So just take this seriously as you would if you go into a bank. So if a bank says I need this financial paperwork, I need this, I need that, I need this, go ahead and send it in. If you get approved for a loan, you can always say no. No one, we're not gonna come to your house and beat you with a stick and say you better take this money. I mean, if you get approved, you get approved. If you don't, you don't. The option is always yours, but don't put yourself in a box where you get understanding. Well, if the bank says no, that's all there is to it. That's not there is to it. The lenders that we have, they're generally insurance companies, financial investors, labor unions, people who invest funds. The majority of the people are banks. Banks who will lend money that is not federally insured money. So if they make a profit off of some invention they have, they lend that money out in the unsecured alternative market because they can take greater risk and charge higher interest rates. So most of the people you're dealing with are banks. So there's always a question with Black people. Well, is this legitimate? Yes, it's legitimate. Okay. I mean, we're not in a alley somewhere saying, we'll give you some money, we're going to break your leg if you don't pay it back. That's not the case at all. I mean, the question comes down to, do you want to succeed or not? If you want to succeed, we got the money to help you to succeed. Now, everybody can't make it because of credit issues. But one thing we will do, we will tell you why you don't qualify for the loan, and we will give you an avenue, a pathway to clear up what your credit issues are so you can qualify. Unlike a bank, we just don't say no to people. I think you're muted. I think you're muted yourself.
Yeah, I did mute myself. Sorry about that. Yeah, the banks just they take your application, turn you down, send you away, and just would destroy your self-esteem and your dreams.
No, we don't do that.
Right.
I mean, if we tell you no, we will say, well, we couldn't fund you right now because of A, B, and C. You need to do this to qualify for the money. We will tell you what you need to do. We will assist you in doing what you need to do. Now, I was speaking to the CEO of the company, the funding company, a couple of days, Monday, matter of fact, and it's expanding. We are getting more people in and getting better staff, more staff. But he says, but I'm only one of many people throughout the country who do this product.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us will talk to clients and say, you didn't get funded because of A, B, and C. You need to do this to get funded. Now, he said a few people are like banks, just say, no, just walk away from the people. No, I'm not one of them, but there are people who will do that.
Okay.
But I'm not one of them. I mean, I always look at clients who don't get funded and how can I help them overcome the barriers to get them funded, because it came up because that's what we were talking about some people who had issues, couldn't get funded. I want to reach out to them to find out what was the exact reason they couldn't get it. It might be a matter of paying off a bill. It might be a matter of getting some off their credit. It may be something of making arrangements to pay a bill or get some removed from their credit. And we will help you do that. That's something I work in, with a different part of the company will do that, will help you get your credit restored, or so you can get funded. And as they told me, we are not in the credit repair business, we're in the loan business. So we're going to try and get the people repaired enough to get them funded. We're not interested in getting funded. Now, generally, if you are in the 500s range, they will work with you. Now, some people have almost no credit score at all. So those people are going to take too long. And they do need to get a long-term goal. It's going to take them a couple of years to get to the point. But if you get 550, you at least get looked at and get in the door and get in a situation where you could possibly get some money. Now, if coming at 550, no, you never get $400,000 because your credit score is too low. With this program, you're talking about, I think it's like $3,000, $50,000. But if I'm starting a business, I can get $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. I'm dancing down the street with the check. I don't know about you, but I'm happy. If I'm just starting out and I get $30,000, $40,000, or $50,000 cash in my account to maneuver with that, and I'm starting out, that's a lot of money if you're starting out. And if you use it, frugally and make sense with it, you can work with that.
I might actually, for our next show, I might actually come up with a list of franchises that fall within that range. To maybe so that you can pay for your franchise and then have some additional money in the bank for operating. I'll look into that because different price points for different franchises, so that if people are interested in starting businesses, they can access bbl.cashtofund.net. They'll have the money, and then they'll have a proven concept to roll with in terms of starting a business. Just to kind of play around with that, I might see how that works out for us.
Well, that will sound good. And can I say this? I'm not trying to take up too much time. Suppose you are working somewhere and you save up your money and you can get a franchise. Say the franchise will finance it for you. You still need some operating capital that's uncollateralized to get stuff moving. I mean, businesses never have enough money. If you're a micro enterprise, you never have enough money. So you can say, well, I got somebody who's going to help me with this. Why not get an extra $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 to have in your back pocket?
There you go.
In case, remember my rule of thumb, something going to happen that's going to cost you some money.
Something's going to happen.
Something's going to happen. And the best time to apply for money is when you're not desperate.
When you don't need it. That's right.
When you don't need it. The best time to apply for money is when you really don't need it, when you're going good. You get the money and put it in a savings account or some instrument that you can get access to that is there as a safety net. Remember, a safety net, in case you fall, you don't hit the ground. It's something that saves your life. So you never have too much money. And this is uncollateralized money. So if you are, have a mortgage or your property's tied up because for some other reason, there's no collateral. Remember the the ad. It's no collateral, no upfront fees, and you could pay it off early. I mean, it's no penalty for paying off
Penalty.
early.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean,
So I'm a fan. So,
so,
Mr. Ron, we've run out of time here for this broadcast. It always goes super fast.
okay.
Because it's very, it's great information. I think we need to do something bigger at some point. We really need to do something bigger just to really get this message out there, especially to our members.
Okay.
And as I told you before, when I first started BlackBusinessList.com, I would probably say 99% of those people are not still in the directory because we start businesses and then we go out of business eventually, a lot of times because of the reasons that we talked about. And the biggest reason, according to the statistics, is a lack of capital. So we want to fix that. We want to give all of our members this consistent, regular access to capital through this program. If you're a BlackBusinessList.com member and you need money, you can first start your search here because we have programs that are available. Even if you're in the for starting from 550 to 6 something credit score, they'll work with you.
619.
619, they'll work with you on and on up. So get access to capital. Go ahead, fill out the quick information online at bbl.cashtofund.net. It does not take a long time. So get it filled out. It does not affect your credit. Go ahead and let's go ahead and get you access to capital. And Mr. Ron, we thank you so much for bringing this program to us.
Okay.
And and we're gonna do some really cool stuff next week. I think I already know what I want to do in terms of just showing people either if you're not already in business, and I might contact some people who are thinking about starting businesses and see if we can get them on the show to talk about what they want to do and then how you might be able to help them actually achieve that goal. I think that's a good goal that we'll have for our next show.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
All right. Okay. Well, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Again, if you're watching on the replay, the recast, go ahead and let us know where you're watching from and go ahead and click the link. It's bbl.cashtofund.net and go ahead and initiate the process. There's no pull on your credit to do it. But all you're going to do is initiate this process so that you can get access to Mr. Ron and he can tell you how much money he can get for you. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Mr. Ron, thank you so much. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
All right. Thank you.